Hello everyone and welcome to today's webcast, Routes into Teaching, everything you need to know about becoming a teacher with the University of Sunderland. My name is Sally Squires and I work at the University of Sunderland and I'm pleased to be here today hosting this session. I'm joined by my colleagues, Michaela Morgans, Principal Lecturer and Team Leader for our initial teacher training courses, Vicky Stokes, Senior Lecturer in Primary Education, and Andrea Brown, Lecturer on our PSET course. We're all together to talk about our teacher training courses at the University of Sunderland and hopefully answer all of your questions. So if everyone's ready, let's get started. We are well known at the University of Sunderland for the quality of our teacher training courses, which provide our students with a wide variety of routes and subjects by which to train to teach. So let's discuss the different courses and routes we offer. Becoming a primary teacher is probably one of the most popular routes into becoming a teacher. Vicky, could you tell us a little bit about the primary education courses we offer?
So our most popular route into primary education would be our 3-year undergraduate programme, which is taught on campus. We also offer 2 postgraduate routes, so for those who already have their first degree in place, those 2 postgraduate routes include a PGCE on campus 1-year course and a 2-year blended course, which includes online teaching. The other course that we offer is a school direct route, which involves a lot of school-based learning.
Thanks, Vicky. Becoming a secondary school teacher is growing in popularity as many students see this as a way to pass on their love of the subject. Mick, could you tell us a little bit about the secondary routes we offer?
Yes, well, we're really excited that we've got a brand new undergraduate STEM suite coming on board in September, which gives people the opportunity to train in a science, technology, engineering or maths route across 3 years and gaining qualified teacher status at the end of it. We've also got a new undergraduate PE route coming on board in September as well. And again, that's a 3-year route with QTS at the end. So at the end of those programmes, you will be specialised in a particular degree route, but you will also have a second STEM subject that you can offer to a school, which is obviously a massive selling point for schools at the moment, to be able to have teachers coming on board with more than one subject to offer. In addition to that, we have our PGCE routes, and we offer PGCE across the full range of curriculum subjects. And we're super excited this year that business is coming back on board, so you can come and train with us to be a business teacher, and that's a really good route. Lots of schools are looking for business teachers at the moment as well. We also have the school direct route, as Vicky mentioned, which is a school-based teacher training route, and we have lots of lead schools who are fantastic and have lots of different subjects that you can train to teach with them in, and you'll be in school most of the time if you choose that route. And then finally, we have our apprenticeship model, which is a model where you're an employee of the school, and you work alongside the teachers in the school coming back to university for assignment input. And with that route, you get QTS and your PGCE, but you also get an apprenticeship certification as well.
Great, thanks, Mick. Post-compulsory and education and training, or PSET, sits apart from our secondary provision and is for those who want to teach in colleges and sixth form centres, for example. Andrea, could you tell us a bit about the PSET courses we offer?
Yes, certainly. PSET, as you've said, Sally, is post-compulsory education and training, and it's for those who are interested in teaching in the further education sector. This is a really diverse sector, and it can include anything from school sixth forms and FE colleges, as you mentioned, but it's also prison education, community education, private training organisations, or even HE institutions as well. We offer a range of different routes into the PSET. We have a full-time postgraduate route, which is on campus, and it's for those who have no previous teaching experience whatsoever. We also offer 2 different part-time routes. One is an off-campus delivery, which is a 2-year programme, either the certificate or the professional graduate certificate, and they're delivered at our partner colleges. And we're really excited to be able to offer an apprenticeship route now, a level 5 learning and skills teacher, and that is for those who are looking to gain a teaching qualification where they work.
Thanks, Andrea. The university also works in partnership with schools all over the North East, offering school direct apprenticeships. Mick, can you explain a bit about these routes into teaching?
Yes, so the school direct and apprenticeship routes are school-based teacher training routes. You'll be interviewed with us alongside a lead school, and the lead school will allocate you to a particular school or setting. Often our apprenticeship route is used by schools who have an HLT or a cover supervisor that they want to train up to get qualified teacher status. We have a really strong network of lead schools and they work really, really well across our partnership to support our trainees. If you do the school director or apprenticeship route, you do still come back to university for roughly 1 day a week, and we are able to support you with assignment input, but the majority of your training is alongside colleagues and trained mentors in your school.
That's great, thanks Mick. So the common questions from those looking to become a teacher are around entry requirements and the experience they need to apply. For our undergraduate teacher training courses, we require applicants to have 120 UCAS points. You can use the calculator on the UCAS website to figure out how many points you have. For our postgraduate teacher training courses, you usually need to have a 2-2 or above honours degree. Vicky, are there any other academic qualifications and conditions applicants have to attain to secure their place on a teacher training course?
Yes, there are. So in addition to the qualifications that you've mentioned, all of our teacher training courses require applicants to have GCSE at grade C or 4 or above in English and maths. And in addition to that, for the primary courses, you also need a science GCSE, again, grade C or 4 or above. Unfortunately, we don't accept functional skills. However, if you don't have the GCSE qualifications, then you can apply to do the equivalency tests, and we would give you advice on how to go about doing that if you accept an offer from us. We do accept the access to education route or an appropriate level 3 qualification for English and maths, and our student admin team would be able to advise you on the specific qualifications that you would need for that. Alongside those qualifications, there are other conditions to a place on the courses, and you would need these in place before you enrol. So these include a DBS and a medical check. You'll receive details about these once you've passed your interview, and we would advise really that you get those completed as soon as possible.
Thanks, Vicky. Andrea, what is the university stance on entry criteria and experience for our postgraduate inquirers?
For the PSET programme, as you mentioned, the postgraduate and the professional graduate on the part-time programme do usually require you to have a 2-2 minimum in your degree. But unusually in PSET, your degree does not necessarily always have to be related to what you are going to be teaching in, because it is such a diverse sector. So, for example, we have one of our case studies, Olivia Cummings from 2019 cohort, and she actually did an undergraduate degree in performing arts, but then she chose to study the PSET, the full-time PSET, the English Pathway Specialist route, because she wanted to have a broader experience to be able to teach drama and English together. She did a placement in prison education and has gone on to secure a successful job in a local college as well. So there are specific entry criteria attached to the specialist pathway, but we can have a chat to you about that if you're interested in that. For the part-time in-service certificate, you don't actually need a degree. It's a level 5 programme, but you will need an HNC or an advanced NVQ level 3, 4 or an equivalent professional qualification. For the apprenticeship, the level 5 apprenticeship route that we offer, again, you don't need a degree, but we would expect you to have either a subject specialism or a vocational competence and current working knowledge of workplace practices where you are. For all of them, you have to have English and maths, grade C or grade 4. But on the PSET, we do actually accept the level 2 functional skills in English and maths. For the apprenticeship, if you don't already have it when you come on to the apprenticeship, then it is a requirement that you take it before your final endpoint assessment. So you will need to secure that before the end of your course. All of the courses require you to undertake an enhanced DBS and a medical. And for the full-time and the part-time, you don't have to have had previous teaching experience. Obviously, it's something that would be great for you to have. Full-time is pre-service, so we absolutely don't expect it, but even the part-time is in service, and you could be a brand new beginner teacher undertaking the part-time route.
Thanks, Andrea. Mick, what kind of experience would you look for in a teacher training application?
Well, Sally, the first thing I would say is there's not a one-size-fits-all teacher, and we're certainly not looking for that. We're very much training teachers for a really diverse profession. And if you are passionate and interested in becoming a teacher, then we would strongly advise you to apply. I think it's really important to say that we are able to support you with things like subject knowledge if you're coming on to a subject-specific secondary PGCE route. So we do have something called subject knowledge enhancement courses, which are generally offered online. And we can make that a condition of offer. They're funded by the DFE. So if you get a SCE course, as we call them for short, as a condition of your offer, you will be paid by the DFE to complete that prior to your course. And that just bumps up your subject knowledge a little bit and develops your confidence before the start of the programme. For our undergraduate routes, my team are really, really good at developing teachers. So we get trainees coming to us who are quite underconfident in school, but absolutely know that they've got passion for teaching. And we are really expert, as our second in the Guardian League Tables 2020 sort of shows you, at really developing teachers across our undergraduate programmes. I think in addition, if you have done some volunteering with children, whether that be in school or whether it be through a volunteering group or Brownies or Scouts or something like that, then absolutely put it on your application form. But we're really looking for potential to teach rather than experience before you start the programme.
Mick, which of our teacher training courses are open to international applications?
We absolutely encourage applications from international students to all of our teacher training programmes. There are some additional conditions for speakers of languages other than English, and that is that we expect an IELTS qualification in writing at least 6.5 with no other element of IELTS lower than a 6. If you have all of those conditions, then absolutely we would welcome you to apply to our courses.
Thanks, Mick. If you have any questions about our entry requirements and your qualifications, our student admin team are happy to help. Currently, all applications for both our undergraduate and postgraduate teacher training courses can be submitted through UCAS. Once we receive an application and check it against the course entry criteria, we then start inviting our teacher training applicants for an interview. Vicky, what should an applicant expect on a teacher training interview day?
So our interview sessions are absolutely designed to put you at ease. So they're undertaken by a member of the team. We're a very friendly bunch. So it's quite a relaxed session that you'll be part of. We want to put you at ease and obviously get the best out of you on the day. So please don't worry about the interview process. You'll engage in a range of different tasks. So some of these are individual and some of these are in small groups. But you send all of these details beforehand so that you can start to engage with the process. And as Mick said earlier, we're really looking at people's potential to teach. So we'll be looking for things like your ability to communicate and that passion for teaching, really.
Thanks, Vicky. Andrea, how are PSET interviews organised and what kind of applicant are you looking for?
Well, just to echo what the others have said, there is no one applicant type that we're looking for. Our classes are made up of very diverse ranges of age, background, experience and entry onto the course as well. So again, what we're looking for is someone who has a real passion and drive, very enthusiastic about their subject. We really want that to shine through. Because FE is so diverse and dynamic, it could be somebody who is looking to teach in a very traditional teaching setting, or someone who wants to teach in community education or prison education and so on. So as long as you have motivation and enthusiasm, that's what we're looking for. Similar to what Vicky has said there, the interview day is designed to be as relaxed as possible. Well, as possible as an interview can be. You will have a pre-interview task sent out to you and there will be another task on the day, but it's really about getting to meet the team, to find out more about the course, to ask any questions. And the one-to-one interview that we do is trying to get the best out of you. We're not there to make it difficult for you, to trip you up or to catch you out. We really want to get the best out of you, so please don't be scared.
Thanks, Andrea. Mick, what does a typical year group of teacher trainees look like? Is there a standard applicant you're looking for?
Absolutely not. And I would say that no two cohorts are the same, although all of them are fantastic. As Andrea has said, for the PSET programmes, we take our applicants from a range of different backgrounds and we have a range of different age groups. And I think that diversity is what makes us really strong as a teacher training institution. So please don't think that you don't fit a particular teacher model, because we are, as I said, training for a diverse profession and we really want to meet lots and lots of different sorts of people and get them into the teaching profession.
If you are successful at your teacher training interview, you'll be made a conditional offer for that course. The conditions of that offer may include achieving certain exam results, obtaining a DBS and completing a medical and self-declaration form. These compliance checks are made available to offer holders before the start of the course, we recommend you begin these checks as soon as you can to ensure they're completed before your course starts. So now we've covered the courses we offer and how to apply for them. Next, let's talk about what applicants can expect once they've started their course. Mick, placements are an essential part of a teacher training course. Could you give us an overview of how placements are organised on our primary and secondary teacher training courses?
So on our primary and secondary teacher training courses, if you're on an on-campus programme, you will be engaged in placement windows across the duration of your course. We use a range of different schools across the local area. We have a really strong link of networks, of partnership networks across the region, and we also have some schools out of area which enable trainees to have different contexts, such as working in coastal schools or working in inner city schools. We do have a placement office, and our placement office support you to put you into a school or to support you in going into a school across the placement window. Our placement windows are very bespoke, however, so we work very closely with our schools, and it may be that your placement looks slightly different to somebody else on the course, and that's to enable us to ensure that we give you the best possible opportunity in the sort of school or setting that's going to enable you to succeed on your training. If you're on a school direct or an apprenticeship route, you will be assigned to a lead school. That will happen before the start of the programme, and you will begin in that school during the first week of your training ordinarily, and you'll stay attached to that school throughout, but you will go into an alternate setting, so you'll go into at least 2 schools during the course of your training. For all of our programmes, there are a minimum number of days that the Department for Education set. And also there is a requirement usually that you work across more than one school. And when you start your programme, we'll talk to you about what that minimum number of days and the requirements of the different schools are. But we've got everything built into our programme to enable you to meet the requirements you need to qualify as a teacher by the end of the course.
Thanks, Nick. Andrea, how are placements arranged in our PSET teacher training courses?
All of the PGCE courses place a really strong emphasis on the practical teaching element, and PSET is no different in that respect. If you're on the full-time programme, so the pre-service, then ideally you may have some contacts yourself for a placement, which is great, and we would urge you to do that. But we also have a fantastic placement office who will work to support you and find you the right placement for you. So that's marrying up the subject that you want to teach with the kind of provision that you want to be in. And some of our students actually take advantage of that placement office and try a placement somewhere where they would normally not have access to, whether that's prison education or a specialist education provision that perhaps is an unknown entity to them at this moment in time. On the part-time programme, so whether that's the in-service, off-campus or the apprenticeship route, then your practical teaching or training will be in your workplace, so the organisation where you're already working. For all of the different PSET routes, there's a requirement to have 100 hours over the duration of the course, and for the part-time programme you need a declaration to say that you can have 50 hours minimum per year for the 2-year programme. The placements will always have a mentor assigned to them, so regardless of which route and regardless of where you are, but I believe Vicky's going to talk to you a little bit more about the role of the mentor.
Thanks, Andrea. Yes, she is. Vicky, could you explain a bit about the support our teacher training students receive when they're out on placement?
So our students, when they're out on placement, have various types of support. As Andrea's mentioned, you will have a mentor in school or in your placement. This will be someone who is a member of staff who's been trained by the university, who will support you kind of on a day-to-day basis on that placement. On another level, you also will be assigned a university tutor. So this is someone from the university who will come out and do visits while you're on placement and kind of continue that support alongside your mentor. In addition to that, all students on all of our courses are allocated a personal tutor as soon as they join us, and that personal tutor supports them holistically, so not just in terms of placement, but sort of more broadly across the whole time that they're with us on the course, academically, pastorally, as well as when they're on placement. So that you've got kind of various levels of support when you're there.
Thanks. And Vicky, staying with you again, can you give us a general overview of what a student's timetable might look like on one of our undergraduate teacher training courses?
Okay, so a typical week in each of the 3 years on the programme would have a mix of days. So if you're on one of our on-campus programmes, some of those days will be, you'll be involved in taught sessions on campus. and some of those days you will be in a placement setting. You get your timetable at the beginning of the year, so you'll always kind of be aware of where you are, whether you're on campus being taught or whether you are on a school placement on those days. We do kind of a range of teaching, so some of that teaching could be on campus, some of it could be online teaching. You kind of get a mix of both. We set timetables for assessment so that your assessments stagger throughout the year. This just gives you a good work balance so that you're not kind of getting a lot of assignments all at one time of the year. So they're spread across the year, and again you get that timetable so that you can manage your workload across the year that you're with us. Our students do manage to work part-time alongside their study, so usually either working evenings or working weekends. However, what we would say is that obviously your course needs to take priority. That must come first. And that's probably more so the case when you're out on placements and you've got that kind of additional workload of planning and preparing for lessons.
Thanks, Vicky. Mick, is this similar for our postgraduate teacher trainers as well?
So our postgraduate courses are only a year in length, so as you might imagine, there's quite a lot to fit in when we're talking about academic demands and also placement. We have, as I've mentioned, placement windows. So we begin the year with a block of teaching, so that may be on campus or it may be online or a combination of both. So the PGCE on campus provision starts the year giving you a really good grounding in the theory that you can then take out onto placement and link to the practice that you're engaging with there. We do also on the PGCE programme have a very clear assessment calendar. So right from the outset, you will know what your timetable is, and you will also know what your assessment calendar is so that you can manage your reading and your research and your writing of assignments. And we have really strong assignment support, both online, face-to-face, and through drop-in sessions that my programme leaders run. We have 2 master's level assignments on the PGCE programmes as well, and that is for our PGCE on campus, our school direct, our blended and our apprenticeship route, which means that by the time you finish your PGCE programme, you get your PGCE certificate, you get your qualified teacher status recommendation, and you also come out with 60 credits at master's level that you can use to move on to further or additional study.
Thanks, Mick. Andrea, over to you. How are PSET students typically assessed when they're on the course?
The PGCE in PSET tends to have their placement running alongside their university classes, so they are working as a teacher really alongside all of their assessments. So the assessments will include the 8 formal observations in the teaching practice, but as well as that there's a range of other things. That could be presentations, whether that's individual or group assessed presentations, written assignments. All of the courses require the trainees to keep an e-portfolio of evidence of all of their practical teaching, and everyone, whether they're on an apprenticeship route, a full-time or a part-time route, will undertake an action research project in their workplace. Now, we appreciate that these are new skills for some people, and so we'll help you with your presentation skills, we'll help you with your academic research, and importantly for a lot of people, we will help you with your academic writing. We do appreciate that for some people, depending on their undergraduate degree, they may not have done a lot of academic writing, or they may have had a long time out of teaching before or education before they decided to retrain as a teacher. And so we have a lot of support, as Mick has said, whether that's in-class sessions with your tutor, library services, study skills support, or more formal one-to-one support through disability services. So we're there to help you with that.
Great, thanks, Andrea. In recent years, for postgraduate teacher training, the Department for Education has been making available some very generous bursaries to encourage applications onto teacher training courses. Mick, could you give us an overview of these postgraduate bursaries?
So there are a range of different bursaries for our PGCE secondary programmes, and I would advise you to go to the Get Into Teaching websites where you'll be able to see the different levels of finance available for the different courses. The bursaries are there in recognition of the fact that the PGCE programme is actually quite an intense programme over the course of the year, and it's not always possible to work alongside that. So it just gives a little bit of financial support to our trainees on those programmes. It also recognises the fact that all of our PGCE trainees have come from doing a degree and or may have been career changers or have had a job previously to start in the programme. So it's just a little bit of support whilst you're training financially.
Thanks, Mick. Andrea, what financial support is there available for our PSET students?
Sally, most of our students do actually take the student finance support that is available, whether that's the tuition fees and maintenance loans. So again, as Mick says, if you go into the Get Into Teaching website, you can find out more about that. We also have in PSETs and bursaries. Now, these are targeted to specific skills shortages for teachers in the sector, so they do change year on year. For a current list of which specialisms have bursaries attached, have a look on our website, but it includes things like English, maths, special educational needs and disabilities, computing, but as I've said, they can change.
And for more information on funding which could be available to help support your teacher training studies, please check out Your Finance pages on our website. So the main opportunities for our teacher training students upon graduation is to gain the skills and knowledge required to become a teacher. Andrea, can you explain a bit about the careers our PSET qualification enables graduates to progress onto?
Yes, as I've already mentioned, Sally, the FE sector is really dynamic and diverse. So our students go into a range of different jobs in different settings as well. The majority do look for jobs and secure jobs in the type of setting that they've had their placement in, but not always teaching what they were teaching on placement. And some students go in and look at jobs related to education, so not necessarily a teaching role, but could be something like, if you look at Olivia Cummings' case study here I've referred to earlier, she's now working as a progression coach in a local FE college. Now, the big difference with the PSET course is, unlike the primary and secondary, we don't have QTS status, we have something called QTLS status, which is Qualified Teacher Learning and Skills status. This isn't mandatory, it's entirely voluntary. So if you do want to go for QTLS, which we would highly recommend that you do, it's called Professional Formation. And you can find out information how to do that on the Education and Training Foundation's website. Now, what this does, whilst it is voluntary, it does demonstrate that you have a commitment to teaching in the FE sector. So again, as I've said, I would recommend you to do this.
Thanks, Andrea. And Vicky, can you explain the typical route for graduates from our primary and secondary teacher training course?
So most of our graduates will leave us with qualified teacher status and will go on to work in a teaching environment. And we support our newly qualified teachers, or NQTs, through this process. So all of our NQTs will leave us with very specific targets that are set for them to develop once they're in post. But like Andrea said, we also get some students who go into other areas of education. So we've had students similar, go and work in the prison service, working at the Foundation of Light, in museums, private nurseries, charities and so on. And some of our students will also stay with us and progress onto master's courses to kind of develop their study further before they go on to a teaching role. And again, the same as Andrea, we have a really good record of our students remaining in their placement schools and getting jobs while they're actually on placement.
Okay, thanks everyone. That brings us to the end of the webcast. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope it has been insightful. There really are a lot of routes for anyone to become a teacher based on your interests, academic level and personal circumstances. Big thanks to Mick, Vicky and Andrea for taking the time to join us today. If your question has been answered today, then please get in touch with us, either at one of our upcoming open days or through the details on the screen. Thank you and goodbye.